Each month I'll sit down with the incredible people who make up our community. From athletes and patients pushing their limits to professional partners and others that share our vision. Here at Change the Game, we believe in the power of community, the strength that comes from teamwork, and the importance of being a true game changer in everything we do. That's what this series is all about, celebrating those values. We're excited to bring you along, so let's get started. Hey guys, Dr. Ryan Godfrey here with Change the Game Performance, and we're here to kick off our new year with a new segment we're going to be running called Reps with Ryan. So I'm joined by Laurin from Avance. She is a sports dietitian, and we're going to be getting a little workout in today as we get to know more about Laurin and giving you guys some tips and facts about how you can improve your nutrition and get dialed in for the new year, right?
Yeah.
So let's get started with a little warm up, right? Mm-hmm. You know, I hear you're an avid runner yourself.
I am. Yeah. I got into running in the past few years. I was an athlete growing up and always ran for sport, and I recently got into running for fun and for health. So excited to get some of these running exercises in as we chat.
Love it. That's what we're gonna do. So we'll start with a little warm up. Grab your kettlebell there, Laurin. And we're gonna just start with a little hip opener, get our ankles loose, because we're gonna be squatting today. It's one of our favorite movements here at Change the Game. So let's just start. We're gonna be up nice and tall, and then we're gonna angle out that top side leg, and then just draw that knee over the toe, trying to keep the heel down as we do that. Okay. So Laurin, tell us more. Where are you from originally?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Maryland.
Okay.
I went to undergrad at a school in Virginia called Bridgewater College.
Got it.
And that's where I started studying nutrition. I got my undergraduate degree there. I also rode horses on the collegiate team. So competed at the NCAA level, which was really fun. And that's where I started to get interested in sports nutrition.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Through horse riding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to optimize kind of my performance, and I was like, well, I'm going to take a nutrition class for myself.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, this is so cool. I want to do this for my job.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So are you top side knee up? So we're going to open up our mid back a little bit. We're going to open up our hips with this one, our shoulders even. We tend to neglect in the world of running our upper body.
Oh, yeah.
So go on. Sorry, we got cut off there.
Yeah.
And we're just going to rotate.
We had a strength and conditioning coach when I was in college, and he taught us a lot about the different muscles and stuff that we use when we're riding, which is, never thought about that. I just got on the horse and rode. So learning a lot about the out of the saddle kind of stuff that I needed to do to
strength work, I'm assuming, right? You're going to be working a lot of lower body.
Oh yeah.
Core with that.
Lower body, upper body too, with your trap muscles and
which
the
is
muscles
what
in
we're
your
working
back.
right now.
Yeah.
Let's get one more.
And then nutrition as well. So that was like kind of eye-opening for me to be a collegiate athlete, and then realizing all the work that I had to do outside of the sport.
Sure. And
once I changed my own nutrition and learned more about it in school, I was like, this is a game changer. Changes the performance.
Look at that. We'll start working our hips too. So tell us more. How do you get started with Avance?
So that's a great question. I went to, and this kind of pivots like after I got my undergraduate degree in nutrition in Virginia. I took a gap year and then went to UNC Chapel Hill for.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, let's go around your feet.
I went to UNC Chapel Hill for my master's in public health and registered dietitian. So it brought me down to North Carolina. And then my husband, got a job in Wilmington. So
who's your husband?
He moved us down to Wilmington, and there was an opening for Avance Care, and I applied. And Dr. Gomer, who is one of the physicians at the office, he
We love Dr. Rock here. Yeah.
What's not to love about him? He's awesome. He specializes in sports medicine, and so our approaches to nutrition and interests really aligned. And I was like, this is awesome. So I learned a lot from him. Yeah.
I have as well, with already networking with Dr. Rock, so wealth of knowledge they are there as you have been as well.
Well, thank you.
You know, what either athletic populations do you like working with, or what people do you like working with the most?
Yeah, so at Avance Care, the clinic, we see huge variety of the population. It's a sports medicine, but also a primary care clinic. So we will see people with different medical conditions, and I can help people work through nutrition to support that with diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, those types of things. My specific specialties are sports nutrition, eating disorders, and intuitive eating.
Which we're going to get into this interesting topic.
Yeah,
the intuitive eating. Let's start working that up. We're going to keep these on here. Are you feeling the burn yet? Because I. You got any races coming up that we're doing?
Yeah, actually, I'm signed up to do the Wilmington half.
Yes, yeah, we'll be out there for sure.
Really?
Well, with like mixed, so we've got one of our PTs will do the full. We've got one of our guys doing the half, and I think Aaron and I are planning to do the relay for the full. So not quite ready for the half.
Yeah.
So we'll be well represented out there.
Yeah.
It'll be a fun one. That's one of the biggest events of the year, really, for road racing in Wilmington.
Oh yeah.
That's a good. How you feel?
Nice and warm.
Hips ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's get into some strength training.
Perfect.
All right, let's grab our weights. Laurin, we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty strength portion of today's workout. So, one of my favorites, rear foot elevated split squats, or Bulgarian split squats. So these are really gonna target working our outer hips, gonna work our quadriceps. As we know in the world of riding, single leg activity, right? So we wanna be strong and resilient by keeping each individual leg strong. So bring that back leg up, okay? We're gonna hold our weight offset to that opposite side, and then you're gonna focus on staying loaded into the lead leg. That back leg's just there for balance, and we're just going slow and controlled into that bottom position. And then we go straight up. Right off the bat, I can feel my outer hip working there, feeling those quadriceps working, right?
Ooh, I feel it too.
Feel the burn.
Yeah.
And then, but while we're getting burned, tell us more about your approach to nutrition, you know, as it may differ from kind of the traditional mindset towards eating well, you know, for our athletic populations. What do you typically see that's a problem there?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm glad that you asked, because I do have a different approach to nutrition than, like you said, kind of traditional, counting calories or macros or things like that. So, so I interned with a sports dietitian at UNC, and she also specialized in eating disorders, because the athletic population is actually more at risk for eating disorders and disordered eating, because there are so many different factors, so much pressure put on athletes by themselves, by, you know, outside sources, coaches, parents, all of that kind of stuff to perform, and that can manifest in different ways. And I'm sure you guys see a lot of that here.
Yeah, very much so. That's why like we said, our worlds collide. You know, we'll get a lot of our high school athletes that are, you know, they come in for their strength and conditioning component throughout the week, and then they've got practice on top of it. And, you know, when we get that in-season volume, it's very rigorous, plus the demands of going to school on top of it, right? So we get a lot of our athletes coming in, and some days they just feel depleted, exhausted, and they're not able to even move the same weight they were previously. And that always triggers me to start asking some more questions about, hey, what do we eat today? You know, we get so many athletes that are like not eating lunch, or have a snack bar or something like that. And then they're coming in here to start moving some heavier weight, and then they got to go to practice, and they're not getting the nutrition they need to sustain, right, and perform at a higher level, and that can become a problem. And then sports where maybe they're forced to cut weight for a given sport can be a real problem, right?
That's tough. That's a really tough one. Yeah, and with seeing all of that and having the education that I did at the collegiate level, and learning from the Dietician network there.
More traditional?
No, it was not traditional. It was very different than anything that I had ever heard. And she introduced me to intuitive eating, which is a different approach to nutrition that is a lot more flexible. It's a lot more individualized, which I know, with the calculations and stuff, you can make it very individualized, but with intuitive eating, you're really tuning into the body signals and the body's cues and tuning out all of the external noise. So as we were talking earlier about all these external pressures and things that influence people's choices around foods that, down the road it impacts their performance and it can impact their health too. Intuitive eating helps to determine what's going to be best for each individual. That's where, my approach is a little bit different in that I don't really calculate macros, I don't really calculate calories for people. I might, but when it comes to the application of that, it's very easy to get obsessed and having those numbers and all of that kind of stuff just like driving what you do versus listening to what your body is telling you.
And that, to me, that's very different and unique. Around the time I was training for my first half marathon, I was treating it like it was the Olympics, and I was for 3 months, I'm like, my fitness pal, I'm gonna log everything I had eating down to a science. I knew before I went to bed, well, I'm gonna have that certain snack and ratios. It's like, don't touch don't put the extra granola on there. You're going over your macros, and that was stressful.
Yeah,
I was
sure.
because of that. I didn't, I wasn't having any drinks, no beers or anything. As endurance athletes, we can get caught up on that, right? And it becomes restrictive, and I think not sustainable, right? So that's where I think intuitive eating sounds like we're reshaping our mindset. Let's have one more set of these for and then I want to get into more so what is intuitive eating, right? And how does that differ? What might that look like? For someone like myself, I've got some run events this year coming up. I have a sweet tooth, really bad. I like to snack late night, and I'd love to hear why is that? I don't know. Is it stress eating? Is that physiological triggers in my body where I need more sugar? I don't know.
Yeah, you're asking really great questions that are applicable and can be answered through learning more about intuitive eating.
Yeah.
So generally intuitive eating.
Laurin's gonna catch up.
I'm gonna catch up. I can still talk hopefully. So there are different principles of intuitive eating that explore different areas of someone's relationship with food. And this is really important, especially for athletes too, to keep in mind. Because intuitive eating it can be very nuanced. And that too, because it goes not really against, but it does kind of go against a lot of the traditional ways of thinking about nutrition, that it can be challenging to understand for some people. So when it comes to emotional eating, a lot of people associate that with being bad, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm sad, I'm gonna go eat a ton of ice cream because I'm really sad. But with intuitive eating, we recognize that we're all human. We're gonna do that. We're gonna have emotions. It's exploring and being curious about it, and asking the questions that you're doing. What happened earlier in the day that made me use ice cream to put it up with my emotions? Was it because I didn't eat enough throughout the day? Was it because ice cream is the only thing that I have to go with? Do I have other tools in my toolbox that I can lean on, such as walking or calling a friend or something? If not, then ice cream is the only thing I have, right?
So then we can do the ice cream session.
Yeah,
if we come to the conclusion it's an ice cream kind of day.
Yeah, no shame. No shame in that.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I really like about intuitive eating is that there's a lot of self-compassion. You're not it, and I am kind of going on a little bit of a tangent.
No, it makes sense. It sounds like
yeah.
it's more at least having awareness of,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
at least thinking through logically, like, why am I triggered? Why am I
Yes.
reaching for the, that type of ice cream?
It's like
For me.
exploring the reasons behind why we act the way we do around food. For a lot of people, it is, it can be a psychological drive, it can be a biological drive, right? So, especially for athletes, and this is something that I talk to a lot of athletes about, is not eating enough throughout the day.
Sure.
And then at the end of the day, eating a bunch of food. Because athletes have all these external things going on, their schedules might get in the way of getting lunch in or getting breakfast in because they have to go train or have practice for 2 hours and then go to class or whatnot. So I work with them on creating kind of a schedule of eating to try and make sure they're getting enough throughout the day, honoring hunger, fullness cues when we can. But with training, a lot of people aren't hungry after their training.
Sure. Especially if it's a high intensity battle, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of where too, like sports nutrition principles can be intertwined with intuitive eating. Timing those things, like making sure pre and post inner workout nutrition if it's necessary.
I'm curious, it's kind of off the cuff.
Yeah.
Do you see a link in injury rate with athletes based on, based on their nutrition? Because that intersects in our world again, where I've got that tired athlete that comes in, and we got to dial things back.
Yeah.
We don't want them getting injured. They're trying to do too much, squat day or whatever it may be, and our concern is that they're going to potentially be injured.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a link there.
Absolutely. So there's a condition called REDS, and this is relative energy deficiency in someone. So this is a result of low energy availability, whether that comes from somebody who's undereating or overtraining. And this can impact somebody's cardiovascular health, musculoskeletal system. It can impact their metabolic health, immune function, reproductive system. So making sure that somebody has enough nutrition is super duper important. And if we see somebody who has a lot of stress fractures or a lot of injuries, it's very I'm like, okay, how's your nutrition? Because it's really likely that they're not fueling properly. Other signs are like brain fog, not recovering or progressing in workouts, low libido for some people, low energy. Those are all good signs.
Let's get a little more working. Are you rested?
Yes,
Are we good?
yes. Run my mouth.
I'm not feeling
Run
puffy too.
my-
I mean, again, the holidays and this intuitive eating is going to come in handy. All right, so we're going to work on a little lateral movement. So I want you to focus on sitting into that non-moving leg. We're really targeting that outer hip on this one. And the slider leg, we're going to work on the inner part of the thigh, those adductor muscles, okay? So for all of our athletes, field sport, even our straight line running, we really need to be able to have good strength and be able to stabilize and through that outer hip, inner hip to make sure that we're having a good landing, essentially, which we're going to get to next with some more plyometric training, right? So that sets the tone for being strong and resilient, so we're not setting ourselves up for injury. This will really help alleviate a lot of times knee problems for folks, hip problems, even low back problems. We'll switch it up. We'll keep it equal again.
Yes, you were asking about eating over the holidays and that kind of stuff. I feel like too with intuitive eating and learning more about having a little bit of grace with yourself around holidays and those specific foods that are not necessarily there all the time.
Yeah, how do you navigate that? With special occasions, especially sustained special occasions around the holidays. What strategies can you use to combat it?
All the time. And that is one of the biggest things that I work on with people because there's this idea that there are bad foods and good foods and we shouldn't eat bad foods and that kind of stuff. But if we're able to view foods as neutral, it kind of puts them all on the same playing field.
So we're going to touch upon a couple of areas that get neglected with our running population and just athletes in general. The first one we're going to focus on is more calf work, lower leg strengthening. Okay? So let's take that kettlebell. I'll show you the demonstration first. Take that kettlebell, we're going to place that right over that lead leg. Okay? And then I'm going to focus. I want to stay nice and tall to start this exercise. We're going to lean forward from the ankle just slightly and load that lead leg. And then I'm going to elevate my heel, both legs, yep, just slightly. I'm going to try to keep that pressure through the ball of the big toe as I do that. And then we're slow and controlled, going to come back down. So this is a great drill. We're going to still be working some of our hip stability, right? Lateral hip stability. That backside leg, we're working more of the calf, the gastroc muscle. The magic's going to happen. This lead side leg, we're working a little smaller muscle, the soleus, that attaches directly into that Achilles. And that's a big one that we see is really undertrained in our athletes and can lead to a whole host of injuries, Achilles problems, foot and ankle problems. Super important one with that attachment to the Achilles, getting strong in that muscle allows us to really get force transferred to that Achilles so it can spring out of each step on our run, essentially, right? So, really neglected spot that we focus on our runners, field athletes, target, right? So let's all join you now. We'll do speaking of neglecting things, right? A lot of people have these New Year's resolutions, right? Holidays get busy, we're not working out, we're not focused on nutrition. What tips might you have for people as they come into the new year with all these new resolutions?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. I do hear, a lot of people wanting to make fitness goals, nutrition goals as the new year comes to a start. Definitely practicing that self-compassion and being nice to yourself after the holidays.
Sure.
It's a time to enjoy with your family, enjoy those foods that you don't necessarily have all the time. So being okay with it, not feeling like you have to get back on track or anything like that. There's nothing, I fully support setting goals, setting realistic ones, ones that are specific. There's an acronym called SMART. SMART goals, right?
Smart goals,
so we want to do specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based.
Sure.
But in general, not being too hard on yourself for enjoying the holidays. And when it comes to nutrition specifically, setting monthly goals and things like that are totally fine, but being aware of how these goals can support you in the long term, right? So we want to create sustainable goals, not just for the month of January.
Exactly, right? Because we said, in the training world, that's the flood, everyone's in the gym, right? Can't even get equipment. And it's that mindset, like, this is the year I get in shape, and then we see February 1st rolls around, and it's a ghost town, right? So we don't want that to happen in your training, we certainly don't want that happening in your nutrition.
Anti-diet dietitian, and diets are very, rigid and time-based, and, all that kind of stuff, and
no one likes that.
Get it? Yeah, no.
I'm on a diet.
No, yeah.
Big thing.
Yeah. And, they're not enjoyable, they're not sustainable. 90% of people who go on a diet don't sustain it.
They fall off.
Fall off the diet. But with intuitive eating, you don't really fall off. There's no way to fail. It's just kind of like learning about yourself, learning about, what nutrition works best for you, what nutrition helps with your performance, and adapting to the seasons of life.
I love that. That's how we educate our clients, our training clients, and even our patients of if you had a bad day, if you didn't get that long run in, or you didn't get the extra mile, you didn't fail. Right? If we consistently focus on our training and still we're aiming towards that end result, if you had an off day, we can't let that be a stressing factor. We just move on to the next and focus on what we can achieve those following days, right? Same thing with the intuitive eating. Don't beat up on it.
Exactly.
And I think that's why. So Laurin, next strength set, one of the other neglected areas for in general, is working our hip flexors. And I think that's because there's not a lot of ways to really do it effectively. One of the drills we give our runners that can help with working strength capacity with deep hip flexor, also working running mechanics is what we're about to do next. And I know as you mentioned, you're kind of getting this irritation in more of that hip flexor attachment, right? And as we discussed, a lot of times that's because, okay, maybe we've got some strength imbalances with our glute muscles, right? We need to focus on some of those other strength movements we tied into. But also another target is making sure that the deep hip flexor is nice and strong so we're not overusing that other hip flexor muscle, right? Okay. So the way we program these, we're going to be nice and tall. We got a band around our midfoot. Focus on keeping glutes nice and engaged, abs nice and engaged, much like a standing plank. And then we're going to want to lean just slightly forward at the ankles. And that's where we'll see a lot of folks, when they're running, they're up too tall, right? So they're kind of wasting energy. We want to be moving forward in our running, obviously, right? That's what propels us forward. So slight lean, and then we're going to pull that band, just marching through, get a little 2 count hold, and I'm still focused on keeping that back, that downside hip nice and extended as I do that. And then we just march that out. And I'm focused on working that deep hip flexors where I want to feel that tension, right? So this can get people feeling kind of that lean into their run, moving quicker, right? So that's a piece for runners that oftentimes are like, how do I get faster? And this is kind of a simple way of making sure that we're getting that forward lean a little bit targeted on our run is going to make you a faster, more efficient runner as well. One of my favorites. Good warm-up drill too.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because it makes me think of one of the things that I've learned from running that kind of translates over into goal setting and nutrition and intuitive eating and stuff is patience and kind of slowing down and allowing yourself to kind of just go through some of the motions sometimes and be okay with where you're at. With running, I know, building that base of just easy runs, being patient with going slower, taking your time, all of that's really important. And that translates over into nutrition. It's like kind of taking smaller steps and being patient with yourself, being patient with your body, and learning in that way. So I think if people can set goals in that way and be in it for the long haul, I think they'll be much happier with themselves, much more appreciative of what they can do, what their body can do.
Totally agree. Again, parallel worlds from what we see. An injured athlete is a frustrating world to be in, and as we talk about a lot of times, they're just overdoing it, right? Like they're so focused on maybe the goals they want to achieve, and they're doing too much intensity, too much volume, right? And they become stressed, and their body becomes stressed, and that's what can lead to having an injury, unfortunately. So rehab is that in a nutshell. We're just slowing things down a little bit, making sure we're focused in on things that we may need to work on so that we can be resilient when we go back to it. Not put that pressure on ourselves again to keep up with what they think the demands of their training needs to be to achieve the goal, and very much the case with nutrition as well. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's get a little cool down in after we work our muscles a little bit here. So one of the encompassing stretches that we like to do, we call it a pretzel stretch, right? So have you done these?
I don't know. Lots of different
It's a good one. So we're gonna take that top hip and just bring that up and over. We're gonna take that bottom leg and try and pull that foot, much like you would do on a quad hip flexor stretch, right? And then we can use that other hand to just kind of keep us down pat, so we're working more of that mid back, right? And this is a great opportunity to focus on our breathing, as we tend to eliminate that factor, another important factor in recovery, as we focus on deep breathing for our cool down. That helps get our heart rate down, that helps get our blood pressure down, right? And it's a calming effect so that we're not going about our day being up here all day, right? So on these, I'll take a deep breath in initially, and then we can exhale. We get that nice rotation over that trunk. Sometimes we get a nice popping crack in that mid And then I'm just working on that breathing rhythm as I get that cool down. Exhale. Nice and relaxed like that. We target a few reps on each side, keep us equal as always. So some rapid fire stuff though, the crowd wants to know. What are some of your, pre and post workout snacks that you like to have, right?
Yeah. So I didn't touch on this too much, but pre and post workout nutrition is super vital to supporting your performance and when you're working out, and then also recovery. So we're recovering now.
Yes.
But one of my favorite pre-workout snacks is bananas and peanut butter.
Okay.
We want to make sure
like bananas, like you dip it right in there, or how we?
I use we want to make sure we're getting some simple carbs in there to fuel our workouts.
Sure.
Whether it's cardio or a strength session.
Yes.
Carbs are super important. So I really like bananas. I will also do like peanut butter and toast, depending on what I'm doing or what I have available in my house. Sometimes I do fruit snacks or Rice Krispie treats are another one of my favorites.
And how important do you think timing of like pre-fueling, post-workout is? I know protein's a big one, like post-workout, right? Especially strength training, we work our muscles, we need to start repairing. I mean, is timing a thing? Should we be focused on that?
Yeah, timing is super important. It definitely changes based on the person. I know some people, including myself, which I feel really lucky about this, that I can eat like while I'm walking into the gym, or even like within the first 5 minutes of that. But I know other people who are like, no, that hurts my stomach, they can't tolerate it.
So we're working our hips here too. We're going to work hip rotation. This, I want you to focus on, we're going to be a little more active with it. So we got that back leg kicked out, right? And we're going to actively just drive front knee, back knee, into the ground. So we're starting to get a little more active control over our hip rotation after the workout. We use that with our squats, right? Rather than just kind of this passive pigeon stretch that doesn't always last. Yeah, timing matters. I always wondered that too. As I'm probably not very efficient as I could be or should be.
You can, and this is one of the reasons why I also love sports nutrition, is because we play around with it.
Yeah.
What works for one person might not work for another person. We do know with the research that getting in that post-workout meal, post-workout snack as soon as possible is really important. And that's where, we might not feel hungry, but getting that nutrition in right away is super important.
How long are we talking? I mean, I've heard like within 30 minutes, I better. Or...
If you can, as soon as possible.
It's gonna be important.
Because what happens when we're working out, right, is we're breaking down muscles, we're in, that our body is in that different physiological state. So eating actually gets our body from that, fight or flight state back into that rest and digest to help us start recovering immediately. So it's really important if you have like a double day or something like that, or you plan to like work out, the next day or something like that. It just sparks recovery.
And tell us, what's the favorite part of your job? As a dietitian.
Yeah, that's a
What gets you excited to go to work every day?
Yeah, definitely the people that I get to work with, both in the clinic. I love, the team that I have at Avance Care.
Yeah.
They're so fun and collaborative and friendly and supportive, and I love working with them. But also my patients. I love seeing people, work really hard outside of our sessions, and they come back and they tell me, all the things that they worked on, and success stories, and even if they're not, successful or in the goals that we're working on, just the fact that they, trust me enough to tell me things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's the same in our work. Everything you just touched upon. And tell us just some of the biggest takeaways from today. Like, what do you want people to really kind of focus on based on some of the things we discussed.
Yeah. I think one of my biggest things is being kind to yourself and like just knowing that we're humans and we're going to make mistakes. And especially in the world of nutrition, being okay with having, mom's cookies and like not beating up on yourself for enjoying food.
Sure.
It's part of one of the purposes of food, yes, to fuel our bodies, but also to enjoy it.
Sure.
So I'd say that, and look into intuitive eating if you haven't ever heard of it.
I love it. Which again, up
Yeah.
until today, I didn't know much about it, and I love it about it. Because I can still be a sweet tooth and not feel guilty.
Right.
Great. And then where can people find you? How might they get in contact with you if they want to work with you?
Yeah. So I work at Avance Care. It's a clinic here in Wilmington, over on Oleander. We call the office. If you go on Google,
Sure.
I don't know the
You got your
number.
people over there? We
Yeah,
can call, we can
call my people.
connect and then they'll
Yeah,
get
yeah.
you that way.
But I also have an Instagram that I post on sometimes. It's called LC_RD for equestrians.
We're gonna write that one down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first started, it was really geared towards nutrition specific for equestrian horseback riders.
Sure.
But since then, I've kind of expanded and worked with like dancers, runners, baseball players, people who just want to be active. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining
You're
the first installment of Reps with Ryan. It was awesome hearing more about what your